into it, man. With everything going on throughout the world, this is just another thing that is just looking very dystopian, Orwellian, whatever you want to call it. Let's get into it.
I'll be sitting down with an expert, whatever that means, and they're going to do whatever it is they think they can do to make me into an entirely different sort of creature than I am. And so I'm sort of morbidly curious about that. Yeah, the re-education of Jordan Peterson coming to the airwaves soon.
Very, very alarming stuff. So apparently Jordan Peterson, I'm showing you a Joe Rogan clip, but Jordan Peterson, everybody knows he was facing re-education. But what happened with that was that he appealed to the Supreme Court, and apparently he has lost that appeal. The Canadian government, well, you know, it is the Canadian government, but they're making it seem like it's this, the Association of Psychologists of Ontario, something or other like that. They're saying that everything he said, which was criticizing the government, a big part of it, Canadian government, was just too much and he has to be re-educated. Now, again, he's lost this appeal, so now he actually has to go through with it, or else he loses his license, which in the world of psychology worldwide, he's contributed so much, so they might just take away his license. And I'm going to play the Joe Rogan clip where he talks about it. The Joe Rogan clip is actually before he lost his appeal. Then I'm going to be playing the latest of him speaking about it after he lost his appeal, sadly. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. Start off with a Joe Rogan clip. Let's go.
Right. Because they're just terrified. They're going to lose. Well, I did lose my job and I lost my clinical practice. Right. So, like, the costs are real.
So your situation in Canada was that they wanted you to sign up for re-education.
Oh, no. That's already, that's the plan.
Right.
I couldn't sign up. They said already that I have to do that.
Right.
But we have an appeal in at the moment that's blocking it.
And this is all just, the only, what it affects is what in Canada? What is it?
If I don't undergo the re-education process successfully, they'll suspend my license and, well, also say why. You know, they'll say, well, Dr. Peterson is uneducable, he's unprofessional, he's violated the ethical tenets of his profession.
Right, just so because you have a different perspective on things than they do.
No, it's because I'm actually telling the truth that clinicians bloody well know and are too cowardly to admit. So, you know, they went after me for 4 reasons, probably. One of them was the entire transcript of the last conversation I had with you.
Whoops.
Right, that was submitted as a complaint because I was talking about the climate lies. They went after me because of the comments I've made about the trans and liars, the surgeons and the therapists who are enabling them. That's a major part of it. They went after me because I went after Trudeau and his former chief of staff. And what else? Those are the major 3. There's probably 4 complaints aligned with each of those dimensions. And so that's cost me about $1 million in legal fees so far. So it's a very hard battle to fight. It's very annoying because the accusations continue to flow in, even though that's a choice of the college. And I've already been sentenced to re-education of indefinite duration, right, till they're satisfied that I've learned whatever the hell lesson I'm supposed to learn. So that the only reason that isn't happening is because we now have an appeal in front of the Supreme Court in Canada. And so I don't think it'll succeed, but we'll see.
Is it important to you to maintain your license, or is it important to you to win this?
It's important. There's 2 things that are important to me, likely. One is I'm not going to let a pack of ideologically addled moralists, lying moralists who are facilitating the and of children take away my license, not without a war. So that's one thing. The second thing is I'm in a prime position in Canada to undertake this battle against the woke licensing boards because I have the money, and what the hell are they going to do to me? I'm not practicing.
Right.
They can't take away my income, and likely they can't blacken my reputation except among those who are willing to assume that the licensing colleges are playing a straight game. So really there's nothing they can do to me. Plus, if it was only a personal thing, apart from the fact that I'm not letting my license be taken by a pack of intellectually addled hypocrites, there's a part of me that's deeply ashamed to be a psychologist at the moment. I'm so appalled by my compatriots. They know that this gender dysphoria pathology is a lie. They all know it. And they won't say anything. Now, partly they won't say anything because the consequences for saying something are not trivial. But the consequences for not saying anything is that people like Chloe Cole end up with their off when they're 15. Right. Well, that actually matters. Right. So practically speaking, in a sense, the battle doesn't mean anything to me because I'm fighting to remain a member of a club that I don't really want to be part of. But is there a principle at stake? Well, there's a variety of principles at stake. And so if I stop or lose all of the woke licensing enterprises, they'll just have their sway. All the physicians in Canada are terrified to say what they think. Anybody who's governed by a professional college, they censor themselves like mad. And it's really appalling for psychologists because all of the psychologists who are properly trained, they know that all of this is a lie, and not just a lie, a malevolent, vicious, and destructive lie. Everything about it's a lie. You know, Musk revealed the other day that the professionals that were interacting with him in regard to his transitioning son told him that if he didn't abide by their dictates, that his son was much more likely to commit suicide. That's a lie. No one who's educated as a psychologist believes that to be true. No one. That's inexcusable.
It's evil.
Yeah, it is. It's the worst thing. It's the worst thing I've seen professionals do, not only in my lifetime. I've studied atrocity for 40 years. I've never seen anything worse than what's happening right now. And that includes the sorts of things that were done in the camps in Germany.
So, it's the fact that he was criticizing the Canadian government, but also the fact that he is a psychologist in 2024 who is willing to say everything you just heard. And in case, well, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Everything you just heard, everything that he's willing to touch on in terms of, the whole transitioning thing that's going on in the world right now. It's interesting that this is happening to him. Sad, a little terrifying because, when does it stop? Like right now, you can argue, I'm sure people can argue like, oh, well, the things he has to say about, gender affirming care, that's too much. But also he said something about the Canadian government. So what happens if you take all that away and he still just said that? Would this have happened? More than likely, because in actuality, everything that he brought up in terms of that, he spoke about the government way more. And it wasn't just his appearance on Joe Rogan that did it. It was a series of tweets as well that were all tagged. He was adding Justin Trudeau. He was adding the political party that Justin Trudeau is associated with. And that's when it happened. So in reality, all of this stuff that he has to say about anything else, I don't know. For me, it's pretty clear what happened. He criticized Trudeau. And we all know where all that's going within Canada. And then this happened. So I'll throw a clip up of him actually talking about, what happened in regards to his whole appeal. Sadly, again, like I said before, he lost it, but he does go on quite a rant right now because, as you could imagine, Jordan Peterson is quite upset.
And do what they want with it, let's say, and wash my hands of it. And so why am I not doing that? Well, some of it's just pure stubbornness. It's like I'm not going to let a pack of half-witted ideological jackanapes steal something from me under the guise of moral intervention that I worked very hard to attain, that was difficult to attain, that was at one point very valid, and that I have served with distinction and appropriately the entire time. It's absolutely incumbent on psychologists to do what I've done, which is to stand up and say that there's no evidence whatsoever for any of the claims that are being made by the gender-affirming, ideological, monstrous sterilizers and mutilators of children. And if that happens to be something that I'm being gone after for, it's like, bring it on, you sons of and we'll see how that plays out. So now in terms of personal gain, mostly that's just annoying. I don't need to spend 30 hours talking to someone about how I should reform everything I know, from first fundamentals. But I'm going to go through with it. Why? I'm a citizen of Canada, subject to its laws, such as they are. And so I'll play the bloody charade out till the end. Now, what should Canadians think about this? There's a hard question, because you're between a rock and a hard place now. You can either assume that I'm the right-wing scoundrel, unable to control my tongue, that the left-wing radicals who don't like me would like you to presume, and perhaps they're right. Or you can assume that the Canadian judicial system and the regulatory system and the legislative system to some degree, as well as the education system and the healthcare system, has become so bloody corrupt that it can't be trusted in its dealings with you as individuals or in its dealings with professionals such as myself. And I suppose if I was the typical Canadian, it would be a lot easier to presume that I'm the unruly, far-right scoundrel that the leftists insist upon than to make the terrible judgment that the jig is up, boys and girls, and the Supreme Court of Canada itself can no longer be trusted to bear the responsibility to make the decisions that are appropriate to its domain. But, when the news came in today, and it was quite a blow. It made me shaky, and it made it difficult to stand up. And even though I fully expected it, it's exactly what I thought would happen. Why? Well, it's no easy matter to be, what would you say, taken to task by your regulatory board, hypothetically your fellow professionals, and then the Supreme Court itself. What am I claiming? That I'm right and they're wrong? Yeah, that's what I'm claiming. Should you believe me? I guess that's up to everybody who's watching and listening. It's a terrible decision. It's a terrible thing. It's much worse for members of the Canadian public, especially professionals, than it is for me. I can just take my privilege elsewhere and at a moment's notice. I don't need this in any way. I don't even need the designation, even though they're not going to take it from me without a war. But Canadians, here's the situation that confronts you, Canadians. Your professionals are now mandated by law and their own regulatory boards to lie to you. That's all your teachers, that's all your engineers, that's all your lawyers, that's all your physicians, that's all your psychologists. All the people you depend on to tell you the truth when crunch time comes can't do so. So, I'm trying to demonstrate that. And it's expensive and it's annoying and it's stressful. I had a big scrap with your mum yesterday, not least because of the cumulative stress. And so there's a personal cost to all of this. It's very annoying. And, I've scoured my conscience. I don't regret any of the things I said. And lots of my friends took me to task because of the harshness with which I said them, let's say. How harsh should you be when you're talking about and of confused children? What, we're supposed to be nice about that? I don't think so. Now, let's be nice to the local serial killer. No, I don't think so. Let's be nice to the professionals who are so cowardly that they aid and abet what I think are crimes against humanity. If objecting to that costs me my license, it's like, okay.
Oof, man. Wild. Very sad that this is happening to him, but also it's happening to all of Canada, because once this, I guess he's already lost the appeal. So now what other psychologist is going to be able to stand up? The precedent in a way has been set. Someone else can fight tooth and nail, and Jordan Peterson could join their ranks when the time comes. But after seeing what's just happened to him, who's going to be willing to stand up? And I think when governments, again, because I'm pretty firm that it's more the government that's doing this than just this body. I think that association is probably a little funded by the government. I'm pretty sure they probably work a little hand in hand with the government. So that's just me. I could be completely wrong, but who's going to stand up to this type of thing? Right now he has to fight tooth and nail and see what he can actually do and go through it all. But who's going to fight after? They're going to be like, the next psychologist is not going to be Jordan Peterson with millions of dollars. It's going to be Jordan Peterson back in 2014 when he was just a professor and he was just making professor money, and that was it. They're not going to be able to stand up. It's very interesting. But you know what I will say? I will say this about Dr. Peterson. And I don't want to get too religious or anything like that, but I will say this. I've always found in my life, and I've seen in other people's lives as well, everybody has an inkling of what they should do. They have something that naturally people could see them doing. And a little voice in the head of the thing that we should do. But we have bills and material and kids and mortgage and all this stuff, and we go, that's silly, can't do that, I got to do this. This is the money now, this is where I have to focus. When you ignore that voice, I've seen it with so many people, seen it in my own life, so much turmoil comes to you, so much hardship comes to you. Every day is dragging, every day becomes a drag. Just bad things keep happening, It's just like you're hitting red lights, you're hitting yellows, you're hitting greens, but you're hitting just a lot of reds. And you're like, why is this always happening to me, kind of thing. And with Jordan Peterson, it is very clear that his country needs him. It's alarmingly clear that the country needs him to step into the political arena. And he refuses to do so. Patrick Bet-David talked to him about this, and he said, I think I can have more impact elsewhere. And that more impact, listen, again, Jordan Peterson helps a lot of people, and when he goes on tour, helps a lot of people. It's a great thing. But the thing that he wanted to do that was more impactful, to be frank, made him more money. More money than you'll ever see if you want to be an honest politician. Dishonest politician, you can walk away with a few $100 million. Honest politician, you're going to lose money. That's it. You're going to live like a regular person. You're going to lose money. He keeps on, and listen, for other people, when you ignore what you're supposed to do, it's hardships and, sometimes poverty and just, trying to make ends meet, just above water kind of thing. For him, it's been millions of dollars, but also the country lashes out at him and he might lose his actual license. The thing that actually got him to the place he's in now, he might actually lose. He's talking about fights with his wife. There's turmoil, and the money that he made doing the other thing that he thought was more impactful is being drained into this thing. Not completely, because Jordan Peterson probably has a ton of money, I would think. I would think he's at least, $30 million, I would think, just from what I've seen. But if he would just step into the political arena, he'd be doing the thing that he's supposed to do. And that was the last part I was going to say. When you step into the thing you're supposed to do, all of a sudden everything clicks. Even though the road looks so hard and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to make it, everything just clicks and you're much happier and you're much more focused and the momentum builds and all of a sudden it all makes sense. At the beginning, doesn't make any sense. At the end, it all makes sense. His country clearly needs him. Okay? Clearly. The actual country is lashing out at him. The country that people are like, you should probably run for prime minister, is actually taking a swipe at him and showing him, hey, after what we did to you, things are going to get worse in this country. He even said it himself. All the enterprise, all these woke enterprises, nobody's going to stand up now. He just said all of these fields where you're expecting people to tell the truth, they're no longer going to tell you the truth. Under fear of being re-educated. That is not a first world thing you usually hear. It's clear that they need him in some political arena. And the fact that he keeps ignoring it is kind of insane, in my opinion. He should really step in. And listen, I know it's not an overnight process, but for him, it probably would be. If he just stepped in and said, hey, I want to be in politics here, there'd probably be one of the parties. There's 3 parties. There'd probably be one of them that would go, okay, you can be the leader. You can be the leader here. Or at least come close to it and easily step into it. They clearly need a guy. In America, they clearly need a guy. That guy's stepped up. That guy's taking bullets. Losing hundreds of millions of dollars. He's stepping into his thing. Canada clearly needs a guy. And I get it. There's this Pierre guy. I get it. But when I watch them all, it's like, you have Jordan Peterson. It would be great. The guy's been through the whole spectrum of Canadian politics, and he understands the political leanings, not just in terms of tribalism, but also the psychology of it all. And he knows how to explain his points better than anybody who's in Canadian politics right now. It's like a no-brainer. So, interesting that all this is happening to him. And interesting that, you know, there's been many people who are like, this guy should be prime minister. I just wanted to say that really quick. I hope he actually does step into it. You know, Canada could have their coming to Jesus moment and realize, oh my gosh, this is the guy. This is the guy. He's a professor. He went to Harvard. He taught at Harvard. It's not even he went to Harvard. He taught at Harvard. Like, everybody was like, oh my God, Obama, Harvard. This guy taught there. Oh, man. Anyways, guys, just wanted to show you that. Very sad what's going on in Canada. Very, very sad. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. And other than that, I'm out.